Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Morning Metro. It is December 1st, 2018. We, of course, your hosts are Go21 and Gertron.
Hello, peoples.
And
how are we doing today? It's a beautiful Saturday, of course. 2 p.m. Sunday time. Stop here talking to you, right?
That was weird. I had to actually cut the music for me to actually. We're doing something different with the video today, and apparently Skype doesn't like NDI, and it does NDI, but it's doing this weird like audio thing where I can't play multiple sources and didn't like the music, so whatever. So yeah, that's the thing. But there was an intro, and now it's gone. So it's another on the fly episode. As when is my life never on the fly? You know, some things you just have to do on the fly.
Mine's on the Wasp, so.
Well, I mean, look at our government; it's always on the fly.
Well, it is on the fly, isn't it? It needs to be squashed like a fly, though.
I mean, here today, gone tomorrow, but more bugs fly in, Democrats, and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, my goodness. Democrats. And it's not all Democrats. It's just
True.
about 99.9% of them.
True. Very, very true. Yeah. So... but yeah, so what we're doing all right. We were gonna go live a little bit earlier. Gertron, of course, was not feeling too fantastic, but he has recovered and feeling much better, which I'm very, very thankful for. So thank you for still making it to the show. And we've got it's funny, we hadn't done the Morning Metro for a couple of weeks, just scheduling time, whatever, holiday. Actually, we didn't do an episode last weekend because it was Thanksgiving, so we were observing the holiday, but we're back now. But it was funny, there was a lot that happened in November as far as tech things go. November was pretty active for a lot of stuff, and it kind of like accumulated for some things that that happened, and we're actually going to go ahead and talk about a couple of those things. And I don't know actually if this is the first one. We're going to go ahead and jump right in and segue. But Gertron, can you go ahead and talk about this first one here about I'm going to call this a competitor to the company Parsec, which does cloud gaming. Can we go ahead and jump in on this real fast?
Okay, so it's at shadow.tech/USEN. Who knows about the USEN, but okay, whatever. I'm not really trying to promote the actual product itself. I'm trying to promote the idea of it. While I was surfing the web, I came across this, and I thought, this is actually pretty interesting. For about $35 a month, you get access to a cloud-based computer, a virtual computer, basically, that you can play video games on. Your actual computer needs to have a little bit of power in it, but it doesn't have to be a beast. It can be fairly standard.
Basically a potato.
A potato. Yeah. And basically, what you get connected with is a 1080 GTX video card, and a Intel Xeon CPU. What was that? E5 2620 V4 at 2.10 gigahertz, but you only get 8 processors out of that, which it's fine for gaming as far as that goes.
True.
Oh, USEN is United States English. Thank you for that, creature. That makes a lot more sense. And basically, it allows you to play games that your potato computer normally couldn't play, but now you can.
Right.
It seems like a good idea for if you don't want to spend, couple $1,000s on a actual gaming computer, because what they claim to do is that they will upgrade their computer, their specs, to keep on top of the game, which, as far as I'm concerned, the processor they're using is a little shy of where I'd want it to be as far as the speed goes. But
remember though, Xeons are not meant for speed. They're meant for compute power. So you can game on a Xeon, but they're not going to be concerned about the speed. They're concerned about the computing power of that, be able to compute and send that out over the internet. So that's why the speed is not where it would normally be, which I keep forgetting that about Xeon. Sometimes power versus speed is sometimes better.
Yeah. But, let's say you don't want to buy a brand spanking new computer that's going to cost you a couple $1,000 or something like that, and then a few years later you have to upgrade your computer.
like I did a couple weeks ago.
Exactly. And like I did a few weeks before that.
Yes, and we're actually going to be talking about. We should probably segue. Well, this is actually a good, cool segue back into. We actually missed one thing, but that's okay. That's all right.
I noticed.
So it's kind of cool. So this service kind of reminds me a little bit of. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's called Parsec. And essentially, what Parsec is, it's a very similar company where you can also rent cloud-based computers that allow you to use their services, or if you have a powerful computer yourself. And actually, I have done this myself. I actually was in Virginia a few months back, and I actually was able to dial into my computer here and actually stream games over the internet to a place in Virginia. Now, the latency was not the best because I think the other issue was that we were really maxing out that location's internet because we have a bunch of other gaming computers in that same area. So it was a lot of back and forth. We're basically reaching what I think would be the cap of the internet speed and everything. But it's a very similar process. So you could rent something like this from these guys, or you could sort of do it yourself, or there's other competitor companies. Now, interestingly enough, this site, as we've noticed, does not stay up 100% of the time.
And it's humorous. Now, granted, from my understanding, it is a really new program because, I just found this maybe at the start of this week, and it wasn't available in Missouri yet. And then yesterday I checked, all of a sudden it's available in Missouri. So I'm going to say that this is probably relatively new. Fortunately, I don't know if it actually says when it actually started, but so it's kind of understandable to a degree, if it's brand spanking new for it to have, some issues. But here's the thing. At $35 a month, if this is the average cost. And I went ahead and I added an extra $5 just to make it an even $40. That's about $480 a year. So in about a 3-year time span, you would have spent enough to have bought a brand new computer. But you would think that'd be a downside for it. And every 3 years or so, you're probably going to have to upgrade your computer.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think. Well, let's go back
3 to 5 years.
Well, my computer, it took me about. The processor that I had for about 4 years, and then after 4 years, then I upgraded 4 or 5 years, give or take. So so 4 or 5 year time span or so, and in the meantime, you could rent a cloud server, or if you feel like that, it's kind of like it's a very interesting business venture because you could build it. Or you could decide, don't worry about building it and just rent it out for however long you want to rent it out. That if you don't, decide you need it, you can always disconnect it or whatever and stuff. But I'm not really sure. I think I would still want to go to build my own computer because that way I could have it whenever I want. There's no downtime. There's 100% uptime. I can control what I want on it and stuff. But it's still enticing.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a lot of money or you already have a laptop. And the other thing, which I forgot to mention, it's not just for computers. It's for Android devices, tablets, Apples as well. So it's not just for desktop gaming. Which I honestly, I probably wouldn't use it for anything other than that. But I think it's cool that they say they're going to continue to upgrade their services, which means technically you're putting in the $1,500 or so for the 3 to 4 years, and they're upgrading it, so you're almost paying them for that upgrade without having to worry about it.
I'm curious to know actually what the latency is like between the game server and your home computer. Is there any information about the latencies?
Here's the thing. What I can tell you right now is at my job. And this was something I had found on one of the Shadow Plays ads. Somebody had actually mentioned that. And I told them, when I log into my computer at work, I have my desktop, my actual physical desktop. I log into that. It logs into a virtual machine. Then it logs into another virtual machine. And then it finally logs into the final virtual machine.
Interesting.
That I work in.
Interesting layering.
I know, right? So it goes, it's It's the desktop itself, then it goes to VMware, and then I use Citrix.
Oh, interesting.
And I can tell you right now, other than when they're actually having issues with Citrix itself,
Yeah.
there is no lag between my clicks. I mean,
Very
everything
nice.
happens immediately now.
Well,
That also,
they probably have like industrial grade internet too, like, you know, the enterprise grade stuff more likely.
well, actually, what it does is it uses my internet connection.
Oh. Well, you still have to get the data to your house though. So it's supposed to go through some kind of internet from their location, does it not? Because you're logging in remotely and you're essentially logging into a server of sorts, and then you're downloading and uploading, you know, mouse clicks and information.
Yeah. Whenever I run a speed test inside the Citrix server, which technically we're not supposed to, but I've only ever done it once, their speeds are amazing, except for upload for some reason. Upload is always like 1 or 2. Download's usually like almost a gig. I don't know if there's like an issue with that or not, but you know,
Interesting.
I don't know, but I don't experience lag that way. And then from other comments I've read about how Shadow works, is we've come a long way in virtual machines.
Yeah,
so
we have.
latency is next to none, as long as you yourself have a good internet connection as well.
That's true. Yeah. And that's pretty amazing to think that, you know, we're in that high range of computing power to be able to send that. I mean, it's basically sending an interactive video feed. It's like an interactive YouTube, basically, in a way.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool. And I think that actually, speaking of compute power and all that kind of stuff, this is actually a good segue back. We were supposed to talk about this at the beginning, but I think actually the way it felt, this is actually pretty good. Yes, processor, Gertrude and I have been doing some very serious upgrading in the last month or two. I have gone from a 4790 to an AMD Ryzen 2. Gertrude has gone from you had a 3570K to a i7 8700 non-K. And so I guess kind of like talking back and forth a little bit here, I've noticed a substantial boost. So for example, for those of you who don't know and who are listeners who don't, listeners who don't know what benchmarking is, essentially it's to basically determine, you know, there's a scoring system usually, things like there's 3D Mark Firestrike, there's 3D Mark Time Spy, and they're essentially benchmarking software that gives you an overall score. And the higher the score, usually the better, and then we'll give you individual scores for like your graphics compute and all and your CPU and things like that and stuff. So in a way of flexing our computing muscles, I did a before and after of my previous processor versus now. I was running an i7 4790 for about, I would say almost 4 to 5 years now, actually. I think it was longer than 4 years. My original, now Cinebench is a CPU benchmarking software. Yeah. It's completely free. You can look up on the internet. Just type in Cinebench benchmark download or whatever, and it will come up. So I ran, and it gives you what's called a CB score or Cinebench score. So before I upgraded, I had a CB score of 699, and then when I went to my AMD Ryzen 2 2700, I had a score of 1,398 CB, which is ridiculous. So what changed?
That's about a double increase.
Thereabouts, yeah. So we go from a 4-core 8-thread to an 8-core 16-thread. So like literally 4 times the cores of the, or 8 times the core. Basically it's pretty it's pretty definitely more than what I had before.
Yeah. Now, my computer, my old computer was the i5-3570K, which was a quad-core, quad-thread CPU, which it did fantastic for me until these newer games started coming out and started beating me up pretty bad.
EA, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Sorry, I had something in my throat.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, of course, I didn't think about benchmarking my 3570K scores before I did the upgrade. Down. So I went online and I found several average scores of the 3570K and then averaged them together and came about 450 CB. And then the i7-8700, of course, since that's in my computer, I ran the actual test and I got 1176, which is about a 75% increase from what I had before for a 6-core, 12-thread CPU. And everything I needed to run, it runs like a beaut.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm able to run, even be able to do this show. A lot of you guys really kind of may or may not really, you might think, Grid just boots up OBS and just opens up all those things. No, there's a lot that like, if you guys could see, and especially those who listen via audio, if you could see what runs in the background of this show, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that are open and processing like constantly, anything from a web browser to a, like OBS encoding to, I mean, it's very substantial. So to have those extra compute cores or those extra processing cores is absolutely significant. And actually, for anybody who's wanting to get into streaming, I would actually recommend the 2700 because it's actually its ability to encode is. Gertrude, correct me if I'm wrong. There was a video that was talking about that. It's really the AMD processors are really good for encoding for streaming.
Yes. From what I understand, the AMD processor, your particular processor, from my research, is, while it does do gaming very well, it is more designed for the workplace, doing actual work, while the 8700 is more geared towards the gaming side than the workplace side, but it still does good in the workplace side.
I mean, in all honesty, having a 2700, as far as games go, like, I don't feel like I'm really lacking anything, honestly. Like, yeah, I feel like it still does really well.
The frames per second scores for both the 2700 and the 8700, yours and mine, they were always pretty close. Gaming wise, the 8700 usually gained about a 10-20 FPS increase compared to the 2700. On gaming, so, and the numbers were usually always in the hundreds anyway, so still great scores regardless.
Absolutely.
Not going to have any gaming issues. But I'd like to see how mine lasts as far as when new games come out that actually test the 8700 and 2700 to the max.
Yeah, and I think games like Star Wars Battlefront 2 would be fun to revisit just for the sake of computing or like processing and stuff, because that and Call of Duty Black Ops 4, especially COD, that was something I could barely run. That was a splat fest. Honestly,
you were lagging so much.
Like, I couldn't even like run. Like, I was running at 48 frame, 720p, 4500 bit rate, and the 4790 is just sitting there going like it just
you were like at 20 FPS in the game, 25 FPS in the game.
And sometimes as low as like 15 and as high as like 30 or 40, give or take. Yeah, it was a shatter fest. It was ridiculous. And a beautiful segue. I love these beautiful segues. Speaking of processors, Amazon is working on their own processor for the server market, which will be great because we have Intel, we have AMD, now we have. I wish I had like some sort of like here. I guess this would be the best thing.
See your war face. Sir, you got a war face?
That's a war face.
Now let me see your war face.
So definitely the war face is heating up in the server market. Now, let me go ahead and read off my show notes because I took a copy and pasted here. Behind a thin white veil separating his makeshift lab from joggers at the Massachusetts. Oh, wait. No, this is. Oh, sorry. Where's the. Hold on. What did I. Oh, did I not write show notes? Oh, I'm so sorry. This is about ion thrusters. My mistake.
What happened to you?
I don't know. It's only been a few weeks since Amazon announced that it would offer AMD EPYC servers as an option for Amazon's AWS. Now the company is announcing a new type of hardware platform. It's just it's just created A1 instance, the Amazon Graviton process. I feel like it sounds like you say like Graviton, and I think like Transformers like Graviton. It's got a nice ring to it. The Amazon Graviton server. Today we are launching EC2 instance powered by the ARM-based AWS Graviton processor built around ARM cores, making extensive use of custom-built silicone. The A1 instance are optimized for performance and cost. They are a great fit for scale-out workloads where you can share the load across a group of smaller instances. This includes oh my gosh, brain, stop it. I know what I mean to say. Well, basically, it's really powerful.
Containerized
Thank you.
microservices.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me get this right. How many cores are actually in this thing?
Well, they've got a couple listed here. They got a couple instance names listed.
Okay, I see them now.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
vCPUs is the number of cores it has.
yes. So they've got the A1.4X large, which is 16 core, 32 gigabyte. I'm not sure what EBS bandwidth is. I'm sure it's some sort of like compute bandwidth or something, and up to 10 gigabits per second of network bandwidth, which is really crazy.
And it's about 50 cents an hour. So I'd round it up to $1 and say that's about $24 a day. If you wanted to get that.
Yeah, something like that.
That's expensive.
Now
you better be using it.
Now, the thing is that this is probably not. It's interesting. Now, ARM processors. Let's talk about ARM here for a second. So, ARM processors. I know my first instance of hearing about ARM-based processors were in the small Raspberry Pi computers. Now, Raspberry
and those
Pi
were some poor processing powers.
Yes, but they've upgraded. There is the Raspberry Pi 2 or something like that is actually a quad-core Raspberry Pi computer. So they've actually added quad-core and wireless and a couple other really nice additions to it. So the ARM architecture in and of itself is great. It's just interesting to see that something that was originally sort of used in small scale smartphones have the ARM processor. And in fact, I think it's where things like the Snapdragon processors come from. Actually, if I go open up CPU-Z on my phone, let me look at my device here.
While you're doing that, I got a question for you.
Yes.
So Amazon comes out with its CPUs. Is there going to be a time when Amazon comes out with its own computers? Like it's an Amazon-based computer? Like its own motherboard, its own processor?
I don't see why not. I mean, Facebook's already trying to make their silly little Portal video chat compute device. Mine is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 805 2.65 gigahertz phone. I'm not exactly sure. I think Qualcomm comes off of the ARM processor. I have to do some research about that. But yes, it's the kernel architecture ARM V7i is what the architecture it's in my phone.
Okay, give me a moment. I just downloaded CPU-Z on my phone. I'm gonna give it a try.
All right.
I have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 821 2.34 gigahertz with 4 cores.
Interesting.
Is that better or worse than yours?
Well, I have let's see. Let me go back into CPU-Z on my phone once again. I have the 805.
Ooh,
Qualcomm.
which means I have the how many cores does yours have?
4.
Okay. What's your speeds?
2.65.
Okay, so how come yours gets to be 2.65 and you have a lower version?
Because Samsung. So, yes, I don't know why my phone is particularly more powerful than yours. It's just apparently however Samsung, I guess, designed it, I guess? I don't know.
But the only sad thing about going back to Discord sounds,
Yes.
you want to take a guess?
It's the audio. Well,
It's crackly.
well, here, I'll mute in Discord. You can, or wait, how do we do this? How do we do this so it works efficiently? Oh, you can't see all you can see is the back of me now. That's great. Oh man, the price of new things.
I can see the stream, so it's fine.
All right. Well, anyway,
What I need to see is continue to see your desktop. But should we use the audio from
Skype? Sure, we can do that.
Okay.
Oh man, interesting. Live, like I said, everything in my life is on the fly. Continually. All right.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway, so Gertron, what are your thoughts on Amazon's new processor, the Graviton?
I think it's a very interesting name for it, the Graviton. Now, I think it's a good idea, ultimately, that Amazon branch out to CPUs, but they will never beat out both Intel and AMD.
Are we sure about that? Like, are you sure there's...
Oh, yes, for sure.
Huh. Okay, so what makes you think that, like, what in your mind tells you that that would never be a thing?
Well, let's look at it this way. Intel and AMD have been around for many years.
Right.
Amazon is just now getting into this.
True.
They're really late to the game.
True.
They're having to learn things. Now, will Amazon buy out Intel or AMD? Well, they could certainly try.
Mm-hmm.
And if they succeed, then of course, then we can say Amazon would win. But barring them actually buying Intel or AMD out,
mm-hmm.
or some sort of sabotage or espionage going on, Amazon will never be able to overtake both Intel and AMD because
I don't think that's their intention, because you have to remember the AWS service is Amazon's cloud-based service, okay?
Yeah.
Right now, probably what's happening is they're probably using either Intel or AMD's technologies for their processes, for their servers. So probably what it is, and ARM itself has been around for longer and long enough for devices such as the Raspberry Pi to properly mature, essentially. So if anything, what would end up, it would end up being like is that it wouldn't be necessarily Amazon buying out like AMD or Intel. If anything, it would be that would probably be a decision to be made by ARM, because they're the other rival, the third challenger for that particular field. So if you really think about it, I don't think it's a case of they want to buy out anything. I think it's just a case of they just want to simply have their own processes for their AWS service, is what I'm thinking. So I don't know. That's just a guess, but that's the only guess that I've got right now.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, ARM really has to prove themselves because so far they've been making what just happened.
Yes, got it. It's fine. I got it. Keep talking. I got it. Okay. So ARM basically has to reprove itself because when it originally came out, it was crap. Yeah.
I messed with one of those small little laptops that you could basically fit in your pocket with those ARM processors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what a headache. What a headache.
Mm-hmm.
Just no. They have to prove themselves. And Amazon, you say Amazon doesn't want to beat out Intel or AMD. I have to disagree because Amazon is already a pretty big company.
True.
Okay.
True.
Even if you take out their whole CPU creations, they want to be on top, so to speak. And it's all about getting the market share. The more market share they get, the more money they get. And if they can beat out Intel and AMD, then they're gonna be on the top. And they've been trying to take over everything. Did you know you can actually order fresh food from Amazon?
Depending
on your location?
I believe it. Yep.
I mean, come on.
Yep.
So I think personally that they will try.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's
But I'm just-
fair enough. That's fair enough. And speaking of things, speaking of things of trying and trying not to miss a moment, Gertron, could we please go ahead and I think this would be a good segue to our next article, if you would.
Okay. So I was coming across this online, and Charlie Brown,
Woot!
woot woot woot,
Indeed.
is like,
A classic.
it's a classic. You gotta watch Charlie Brown during the Christmas season because, well, you just have to. I always watch it. It's one of the only things I do actually do. So if you know Linus in Charlie Brown, he has a security blanket.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't be without it. You take that blanket from him, he starts crying and so upset and worried and scared. I mean, he's attached to that blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Now, during the school play in Charlie Brown, a Charlie Brown
Christmas.
Yeah. During the play, he drops the blanket. Now, you might be thinking, okay, big whoop. But it is actually extremely important. Charlie Brown is throughout the story, Peanuts, Lucy, Snoopy, Sally, and others all work at no avail to separate Linus from his blanket. And even though his security blanket remains a major source of ridicule for the otherwise mature and thoughtful Linus, he simply refuses to give it up until this moment when he simply drops it. In the cinematic scene, when Linus shares what Christmas is all about, he drops his security blanket, and I am now convinced that this is intentional. Most telling in the specific moments he drops it is when he utters the words, fear not, at 38 seconds. You're unable to
Because
play
the video
that.
because it's copyrighted copyrighted grounds. It's probably on YouTube somewhere actually. Let's go ahead and quick pull this up.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Charlie Brown, let's see. Brown Christmas Linus speech. There we go. There we go. Linus speech. Here we are.
Okay, you might have to scroll through it from the drop. Or it's 1 minute long. We can go on.
I guess you were right, Linus. I shouldn't have picked this little tree. Everything I do turns into a disaster. I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?
Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. The glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
And he picks the blanket. There's symbolism in that blanket because he
Exactly.
and earth peace. He picks up the blanket. Interesting. I never caught that.
And now, looking at it now, it is pretty clear what Charles Schultz was saying, and it's so simple, it's brilliant. Set free. The birth of Jesus separates us from our fears. The birth of Jesus frees us from the habits we are unable or unwilling to break ourselves. The birth of Jesus allows us to simply drop the false security, which is like his security blanket we have been grasping so tightly, and learn to trust and cling to him instead.
Oh, wow.
So,
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's why its symbolism is so important when he drops that blanket and says, fear not. And he's, talking about Jesus. He drops his security and is basically showing that Jesus is what takes away his fear.
That is very interesting.
And then, of course, later on, he picks the blanket right back up.
Well,
and he
yeah,
keeps the
yeah.
blanket.
Well, yeah.
Of course.
Of course, yeah. But he's young, you know. So he had a moment where he was just like, you know what, I don't care. I'm just gonna say it. And then, like so many of us, we go back to whatever it is because we're now clinging to. That's really, really interesting, and that is stupidly brilliant. Yeah, that's crazy. Interesting. Thanks for bringing that, and that's very appropriate for the holiday season. Yes.
I figured it was December. We need to add something Christmassy.
There
in
you
there.
go. Yeah, I like that. You know, actually, I forgot we need to hang the lights in our studio. Oh wait. Here, I'm gonna. Excuse me, Gertrude. Sorry, I'm just. Sorry, I gotta climb up over you. Where is it? Trying to find. I'm trying. It's. Oh, there goes the. Oh, frick. Okay. Hold on. I'm looking. I'm trying to find it. Where's? Oh, dang. I know I put that box of lights somewhere. Oh, where is it? Oh, there it is. Found it. Okay. Yeah. Just give me a minute. Okay. Sorry. Let me. Hold on. Almost got it. Gershon, can you just move a little bit to the left for me, please? Thank you. Yep. Thanks. Oh, okay. Perfect. Got it. There it is. Perfect.
And we have light.
There we go. I knew it. See, I told you to put the box light somewhere. Oh, just a little bit higher. There we go. Perfect.
Just up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually had that. I did think about that. I'm actually glad I thought to put.
Okay then.
All right. And on to our one of our. Well, actually, we still got a couple articles here, so I'm gonna see if we can go ahead and get through them. Let's see now. We're on to the okay. So finally, we're on to the article that I accidentally hinted. But that's okay. So we're gonna talk about it. We could soon, very, very soon, be in the future of ion thrusters. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Ion thrusters. That was the wrong dial.
Much better.
Wow.
Much better.
Wow. Yes. Okay. So let's go ahead and segue. I'm actually gonna go ahead and read the read this. So this new technology comes out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Has finally come up with the world's first ion thruster. Let me see if I can get to the important part. Okay, using this. Okay, let's see. Behind a thin white veil separating his makeshift lab from a joggers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology indoor track, atmospheric space engineer Stephen Barrett. He sounds very space age name. Stephen Barrett. Ion Thruster Institute.
Steven Spielberg, anybody?
There you go. Recently flew the first ever airplane powered by ionic wind thrusters, electric engines that generate momentum by creating and firing off charged particles. Using this principle to fly an aircraft has long been, according to even Barrett, a far-fetched idea and the stuff of science fiction, but he still wanted to try. In Star Trek, you have a shuttlecraft gliding silently past, he says. I thought we should have aircraft like that, thinking iconic wind propulsion could fit the bill. He spent 8 years studying the technology and then decided to try building a prototype miniature aircraft. Albert one he thought was a little ugly. It's kind of yellow, kind of dirty yellow color, he says, adding that black paint often contains carbon, which conducts electricity and cause a previous iteration to fly itself. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that particular color. Interesting. Barrett had slightly higher hopes for the latest prototype, which he dispassionately named version 2. Before we started the test flights, I thought it had maybe a 50-50 chance, he says. My colleague at MIT thought it was more like a 1% chance it would work. Now, there's much more to this article that discusses this. But yeah, this is what so for those of you who are listening on iTunes or Google Play Music, basically he's got a very large craft that has a very large wingspan. It's got a tail at the back of it, and across a more narrow medium space of wing is actually what looks like to me electric wires going across, spanning the entire width of the wings of the plane.
Think of it like this. It looks like a biplane.
Thank you. Yes, it essentially looks like a biplane. Hey, the Wright brothers come back to strike again.
Exactly. You did. This is what's interesting about it. And you bring up a great point. It looks like the Wright brothers plane, except for it's more futuristic looking. So basically, we're starting back at the beginning with ion engines, and eventually we'll get to the point where every aircraft has ion engines, and they look as good as they do now, if not better.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see ion thrusters like that of Space Engineers, which was one of my favorite games to play.
Oh my!
I love Space Engineers. It's a fun game.
No, it's cool. I would. That would be very interesting to actually see spaceships. I hope and pray that I am alive when we have the first spacecraft that is an exploration craft that uses ion engines and can travel much faster and is actually something that anybody can get on.
Now, one of the things that they said is that it's the amount of power that this thing needs to work. Let's see. Let me scroll through a little bit of this article here.
And while you're looking up that, it does seem like we are right now limited in our technology because of power. What kind of power the new technology requires. So with all this new technology that's coming out, I mean, we now have ion engines. We've talked about the warp drive. We've talked about the shields. And of course, the shield that they've come out with, which is very similar to Star Trek, it's about the size of a softball. That's how much range it has, but it requires so much power to operate that it's not feasible.
Yes.
So I feel that within the next 20, 30 years from now, we are going to come up with a new power source. A new source of power that will revolutionize everything.
I think it's kind of about time that we did, because we've been using gas, we've been using solar, we've been using wind,
nuclear,
geothermal, coal power.
Awesome.
I think it's about time we started figuring out something that can generate more power, because this particular aircraft, according to what I'm skimming here, the biggest challenge is ion thrusters need 20,000 or 30,000 volts just to work. High voltage on aircraft doesn't come easy, he says. You want to play 40,000 volts on aircraft? That technology doesn't exist. Steve Barrett found a clever way to get that efficiency conversation. Finally, Barrett used a computer model to get most out of every design element in the aircraft, from the thrusters and electrical system design to the wires that ran through the plane, the power converter, the I need to head to Joppy's Field for more power converters. Sorry, Star Wars Episode 4 reference.
Goodness.
Sorry.
What about carbon nanotube?
Carbon nanotube. Sorry. It's if you're not Alliance Tech Tip or NCIX former follower, you wouldn't understand the joke. I'm sorry, it was an inside joke here at TMM. Finally, okay, sorry. Where was I? The power converter, the battery, the caps, and fuselage, everything was optimized, Barrett says. The simulations failed all the time. We had to make hundreds of changes. In the end, they had a triumphant version 2. So yeah, we're still, I mean, at least if nothing else, the research is there. That's the hardest part, getting the research. The next challenge now is actually getting it to properly work, which I'm sure that they'll probably be able to get it working in no time, honestly.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing with the ion engines. There is no sound generation. They're silent.
Yes.
So, and further down, it's
Stealth
talked about
planes.
for drones, for building inspections or things like that, would be an ideal application for these thrusters, Gallimore notes, or Barrett adds drones used for deliveries, filming, or environmental monitoring. Imagine 10 or 20 years from now, we could have drones everywhere. He says if those are all noisy, they'll degrade our quality of life, but this is silent. Now, I do believe drones are going to become a big deal. I've watched a few YouTube videos about have you ever watched TED Talks?
I've watched a few TED Talks in my time, yes.
So there was this one TED Talks that starts off with like a pseudo short movie about drones that are everywhere and doing security as well, but then all the drones turned on everybody and basically just started killing everybody. And then it went to the actual TED Talk where they showed an actual drone they had created that you could not crash. No matter unless you physically blew it up, no matter what you did with it, it always reoriented itself.
That's a scary thought.
So I do believe 10, 20 years from now, drones will be everywhere and we'll have something else to be scared about.
That's not fun.
No, it's
That's not fun. That's not fun.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, one moment.
Sure. Gertrude does some research and development behind the scenes again.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's very, very interesting all the same for sure. Let's see. Sky. Oh my goodness. Okay. On the fly things. Gertrude, go ahead and start talking about our next article while I get things rearranged here behind the scenes.
Okay. So what we're actually going to be talking about on this next one is we're going to talk about a Michigan college that arms staff with hockey pucks to fight active shooters. Excuse me? A hockey puck? You're going to put our children's lives in the hands of a hockey puck?
Wait. I'm looking for it. I'm looking for where's the record scratch? Record scratch. Where is it? There it is.
You did. Okay.
Go on.
Okay, so in Rochester, Michigan, in preparation for a possible active shooter incident, the gun-free zone of Oakland University has begun arming students and faculty with hockey pucks. We thought, yeah, that is something we can do. American Association University Professor President Tom DeSanta told the Detroit News, we can make these available at least to our members and a fair number of students as well. Okay, the idea was born during a training session in Oakland. University Police Chief Mark Gordon was conducting with the faculty earlier this year. When one of the attendees asked what they could do to protect themselves on the gun-free campus, which, no, I do believe you need more trained personnel to protect said campuses.
I agree.
Chief Gordon recalled an occasion when he was hit in the head with a puck while coaching hockey. Okay. It caused a fair amount of damage to me, he told the crowd, but he didn't die, which isn't worth it. Well, okay, I take that back. He didn't die, which is good, but if you have an active shooter, I'm sorry, but if I get the opportunity, they're not going to survive it.
Okay. I already see so much wrong with this to begin with. Okay, first of all, who's going to have the correct aim to throw a projectile at someone during an incident? Yeah. You're not going to be concerned about throwing a projectile. You're going to want to run like away, very far away.
Now, although he did not specifically intend for the offhand memory to morph into a defense plan, faculty members ran with the idea. It was not a well-thought-out strategy, Chief Gordon told the news outlet during a telephone interview on Tuesday. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing that had merit to it and kind of caught on. Now, the University Faculty Union has purchased $2,500 worth of 94-cent pucks thus far. Each one is emblazoned with the union's logo and have been distributed free of charge to 800 faculty members since November 9th. Another 1,700 pucks, which will again come out to about probably $1,700
Oh gosh.
will soon be passed out to students, and Oakland University Student Congress has promised to kick in an additional 1,000
Are
bucks.
you serious?
That's a lot of pucks. I mean, I can just see, a kid gets mad at somebody, and all of a sudden they're throwing the puck
Yeah,
at them.
exactly. Puck
We're gonna
wars.
have puck wars.
The puck. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yes, puck
Exactly.
wars. Oh my goodness. I have to just. It'll be a real puck of a time.
Wow. It would be. Now, Keith Gordon said that the effectiveness of using hockey pucks to combat an active shooter has not been researched, but that throwing any item of weight at an attacker could be beneficial. It's just the idea of having something. And reminded that you're not powerless and you're not hopeless in the classroom, the Senate told the Detroit Free Press. Now, let me see. Oh, this is kind of a long article. Okay, that works. Okay, let me see.
I sit there and imagine a kid walking in this morning and be like, here's your free hockey puck. As Gertrude acts out looking at the hockey puck. I mean, like, why? Why is this a thing?
Now,
I
according
just-
to Chief Gordon, dozens of
Okay.
students armed with pucks or other heavy objects could hurl their makeshift weapons at an armed attacker simultaneously instead of freezing in place, the Detroit News reported. The group could also rush the gunman with their pucks in order to create a distraction that will allow someone to disarm the attacker. Now,
There's so much wrong with this article. Like
stay back.
there's
I got a puck. Stay back.
there's so much wrong with this. Like I don't what even? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All I could do is just this.
Wow.
It's like wait. It's like stand back. I got a hockey puck.
You got a hockey puck. So dangerous.
And then probably the guys are gonna be like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. Boom, you're dead.
Yeah, which is sad. Like that's honestly
sad.
like
It's
I mean,
sad.
it just you know what?
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
This is Gertrude's favorite song.
Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Okay.
I'm just.
And then wait, we're gonna throw out one more soundbite, and then you walk up to the guy. Okay, imagine this: you're in this pose. Okay, you got the hockey puck. You're like stand back, and then suddenly this song plays.
Let me see your war face.
Sir,
You got a war face? Ah! That's a war
Okay,
face. Now let me
here
see
we
your
go.
war face.
Like, and you throw this hockey puck, and you see all the children just throwing hockey pucks at somebody. How does it work? There's so much wrong with this.
And now you're arming all these students with hockey pucks. The students could revolt and attack all
They
the
could
teachers.
there could be a oh my. Okay, I need to calm down. But
I
there
mean-
could be revolution.
Now,
World
okay,
War III was started on a hockey puck. People, be warned. You had your warning.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I need to chill. I'm like getting too hyped for this.
Okay.
Okay, breathe. Right. Okay. Stupid, dumb. I'm done with this article. I'm closing the tab. We're moving on. And speaking of more security and stupid things, you should be really careful about the browser extensions. What are you doing, Stream Deck? Okay. You should be really concerned, or at least be careful of the extensions that you install on your browser. This comes from kimcommando.com, which, by the way, I forgot to mention some of our other articles. Oops.
I'll go quickly through them. We have shadow.tech, extremetech.com, godupdates.com, scientificamerican.com, wired.com, Paramount Picture. We didn't do that one.
We haven't done that yet.
And then defensemaven.io, which is actually the Blue Lives Matter website.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Right, so for those of you who don't know, a browser extension is essentially something that lets you do extra things on your browser that is not natively part of the browser. I use quite a few of them. I have I actually use what is it? The Gmail checker. I have the ad guard, which is actually very good at blocking all ads. It's very superior in my opinion. I have the Better Twitch TV emote, which is a Better Twitch TV, which is something for Twitch.tv for allowing extra features such as auto hosting and other things like that. I can actually flip on dark mode for web pages, things like that. So those are extensions that I use, but with great extensions comes great risk or possible risk. This again comes from kimtomando.com. This one section says, do you use browser extensions and add-ons? Browser extensions are similar to what apps are on to your smartphone. Well, not really, but okay. They add extra functionality to your browser and extend its usability beyond your typical web search and browsing activities. No doubt, extensions can enhance your web experience. Like apps, they are used for a wide variety of purposes. They can help you block ads, download content, compare prices while shopping, etc. The possibilities are endless, and the similarities that don't end there. Again, like mobile apps, there always be bad apples among the thousands of extensions available, and most extensions are usually free, which is actually kind of nice. Fraudsters are now using them to exploit your computer's resources for their financial gain. According to a report from Motherboard, there was an entire underground market that actively trades browser extensions. Unscrupulous activity.
Unscrupulous.
Thank you. Unscrupulous advertisers and hackers are even trying to buy popular extensions from legitimate developers in order to monetize them. In other cases, hackers break into developer accounts and take over the extensions themselves, injecting their own malicious code in the software. This means that there's a possibility that browser extensions that you know and trust can be modified later to infect your machine with adware, steal your information, or even control your machine remotely. The main thing with extensions that makes them attractive to cyber criminals is the fact that they can be granted permission to access your web browser data. The sensitive data may include the data on all your websites you visit, banking, websites, social media sites, etc., etc., etc. Not only that, but extensions can also request access to your clipboards, bookmarks, and browsing history, allowing them to create a full profile of your web activity. You can have the best security software installed on your machine, but all protection it offers can be bypassed if a malicious extension manages to sneak into your browser. What's being done about the growing problem? Thankfully, Google and Firefox are doing their part to combat this growing problem. For one, Google has banned extensions that use I don't even know how to pronounce
obfuscated
code. This is when developers deliberately hide a software's true intent by using a hand to understand.
Hard to understand. And I got to point something out here.
Go ahead.
Hard to understand. The word itself's hard to understand.
Yes.
Just continue.
I agree. Or misleading language in their code. In fact, over 70% of blocked Chrome Web Store extensions use obscure. Okay, this is such a dumb word. Basically, malicious code. Let's just call it that. It's just malicious code. Let's just call it malicious code. Both Google and Mozilla also systems in place. They should say also use systems in place on their respective
systems in place.
Something like that. Yeah, I think there's a misprint here. Web stores that detect malicious extensions and add-ons. For example, if an extension is deemed as malicious by Google, it will be automatically disabled in every browser that it has installed. But is this enough? As mentioned earlier, cyber criminals are tending to bypass these checks and security measures by secretly modifying the extension's code after it has already been installed on your browser. Perhaps it's high time you review and audit your current browser extensions and remove anything that you don't recognize or no longer need. Now, I would like to say something here. I actually had a browser, or not a browser, I actually had an extension in Google Chrome that was actually designed for downloading clips from Twitch for me to make essentially highlight reels and stuff. Now, what I noticed was one day, Google Chrome says, "Hey, I need to disable this extension." I'm like, "Well, why?" I did some research, and apparently, one of these extensions was actually being used for malicious intent by collecting my browser data. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
So yes, it is very important to definitely, check out your browser extensions. Now, Gershon, do you have any thought? I know you use a bunch of them, I'm sure.
Yes.
What are your please have your thoughts, please.
There are certainly browser extensions out there that are dangerous. I do not disagree and do not deny that. Before you install a browser extension, there's some things you can do to kind of find out how secure it is. For instance, if it's a very well-known browser extension, like one that I have very well-known is the speedtest.net browser extension, which, if you don't know, that's created by Ookla, which it tests your internet speeds, and you can be fairly sure that they're not putting out malicious code. But what you can do is you could actually, when you're about to download one, always look at the reviews, see how many people have them downloaded. If the reviews are good and there is a high number of people who have downloaded it, and that's like your first step in checking it. If you want to go ahead and download it at that point, go ahead, install it. What I like to do is actually go and Google that particular extension and see what other sites have to say about it. And basically, if everybody says it's good and it's one that I want, then I'll use it.
And that kind of goes the same thing for smart apps on my phone. Like apps I download to my phone. That is kind of the same rule. Like, I'll usually try to read a review of people that have downloaded it to tell me whether or not it's been a really good rating or what have you and stuff. I mean, in this particular instance, this is where reading reviews for apps and extensions are extremely critical to your ability to have a really safe and happy browsing experience. So yeah, just it's kind of a bit of a PSA, something to think about. It's something that Gertrude and I kind of already knew, but for those of you that don't, and our listeners and our viewers of our stream, just an FYI, if you use browser extensions, even on your phone, like you can have browser extensions even on your phone, I think nowadays too. Check it out. Get informed, and be safer, essentially.
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely. I think any other thoughts on that? Because if not, I think we're going to go ahead and move on to. Is this our last article was a movie trailer? Or no,
I believe so.
There was one other one, but I think maybe I'll save it for next week. Yeah, I think I'll save it for next week. Actually, that's okay. Oh, I'm actually. You know what's funny? Maybe I don't have to, because I actually already have the video, because I have the video up in here, and I also have the video. All right, well, maybe I'll go ahead and maybe I guess I'll play part of it. So this was something I caught off the television this morning about now you guys know we have self-driving cars, all right, but this is actually a company that can actually put a self-driving system on a car that does not have it to begin with. This is a startup company. This comes from the Henry Ford YouTube channel. They have a show called Henry Ford's Innovation Nation, which is actually quite good. I've never seen before until this morning, but I thought this was kind of deep. I won't see if I can try to play. Let me scrub to the more important parts of this here. There we go. Okay, we'll go ahead and play just a little bit of this just for sake of copyright, but here we go.
Oh, it's a garage. This is a garage.
This is the garage. This is where everything is designed and built right here. I've been interested in automotive technology since I was at least 13. That was the first time I actually tried doing a self-driving car. I built this car and put a computer and a webcam on it and taught it to drive following the yellow line in a parking lot.
That's speaking.
Kyle works with a group of engineers building each cruise unit. It's similar to the automatic pilot on airplanes, and it could have a huge impact on highway safety.
Every year there's over 1 million car accidents in the US alone, and the scary thing is that 90% are caused by the drivers themselves, the humans behind the wheel. And so that represents an enormous opportunity for the machines to improve.
What's he doing?
So Kevin is working on control